Okay, hello everyone. My name is Mohammed Yacoub from Florida International University. Today I am going to present my presentation. The title of my presentation is Negotiating Online Writing Center Visits from Unfocused to Focused Visits. This is part of the Southern Writing Center Association Conference that is going to be held Thursday, February 11 to Saturday, February 13, 2021. Okay, let's get into the presentation. This is my introduction. When the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic happened, we all transitioned to online settings. I still believed that Writing Center had a strong role, but for those students who never had an online session with a Writing Center tutor, it could be challenging for them. I started asking myself questions like, how does the role of Writing Center come to play differently in an online setting? How can I make sure students are, getting some benefits from their online visits? How can I make sure that I invest in my students' online visits to the Writing Center while they're not, they don't feel forced, but feel supported, encouraged, and safe? Investing in the Writing Center visits. So I started by implementing a strategy to deal with this situation. I created a table and asked students to fill it out for every visit they pay to the Writing Center when they submit their major assignments. The table, which I'm going to show in the next slide, ask students about the date on which they visited the Writing Center, the topics that they covered with the tutor, and finally, what they think of their visits. I call this negotiation. What I mean by it is like students, can talk about what they liked, what they didn't like, what they learned, what they didn't learn. They can talk about their expectations and what have you. Okay, now let's look at this table that I created. So there are three columns. The one on the left, the time visited, and then the one in the middle, the topics covered, and then the one on the right is negotiation. And in my writing course, I assign minor assignments, like lower stakes assignments, and I do assign major assignments, like higher stakes assignments. And I do require this for the major assignments, not for the minor one. So there are usually two drafts that I assign, the first draft and the final draft. And I ask students to fill this out for the final draft, not the first draft. Realizations and negotiations. I learned a lot about students and their experiences with online writing center visits through these tables and in getting students' perspectives. I'm sorry about the noise in the background. Of the Writing Center visits and their usefulness. For example, I realized that some students may visit the Writing Center just because it's a part of the assignment, not because they feel they want to talk about their writing, not because they feel that they need some help on their writing assignments. Anyway, so this helped me to reshape my table and then modify the table to be as this. If you look at the table here, you'll find that I added one more column. It's the second one. Uh, After time visits, I said topics planned to cover. And what I meant by this is I wanted to give students a chance to think about what kinds of help they need. This is kind of a metacognitive practice when students think about their own writing, when they reflect on their strengths, their weaknesses, I don't want to say weaknesses, but I would say, challenges, things that that they think they need to improve on. So what are the topics that they wanted to discuss before they went to the Writing Center? I mean, online Writing Center Vest. And then the next one is going to be the topics actually covered. Did they, cover all the topic that they wanted to talk about, or did something happen and they talked about something different? Did they talk about some of the things that they wanted to talk about, or everything? And then again, negotiation. The rationale for this, as I said, so having a tutor look at students' writing is good, but I found it more effective when students plan their visits and when they know that what they want to talk about. So this revised table makes sure students have some metacognitive awareness of their own writing process, their own strengths, and have rationales of what they want to talk about with the tutor. It kind of scaffolds their writing process skills and helps in drafting their essays. Okay, so this semester, we are in spring 2021. This is February. We're in the beginning of the month. So we started a month ago. We started January 6th at my institution. I know some universities start a little later, but we started January 6th, 2021. And then I said, okay, now let me try this again, but let me use one of the tables in a class and the other table in another class, like the one with three columns that does not have topics that you want to talk about in one class, and the modified table, the one with four columns in another class. Now I'm going to show you some examples. So for example, this is an example of the one with no planned topics to talk about, is this one with the three columns. If we look at this one, students said uh, under topics covered that she discussed proper in-text citation and works cited formatting, specifically how to cite a source without page numbers by referencing the paragraph number, how to code an already cited code within my source. And actually, one of the comments that I left the student on her first draft was in-text citation. She had some problems with in-text citation, so it looks like she had to look at my comments, my feedback, and she was addressing this one specifically. Now let's read the negotiation. She said, I did take into consideration what my tutor suggested simply because I knew my citations were marked wrong. Well, I did not mark them wrong, but I said you need to work on them, like by showing examples of, how to do it um, according to APA. So she said I was cautious because taking her recommendation I was cautious about taking her recommendation because I found myself correcting her throughout the session, but I decided to trust her. Now, look at this the negotiation. Um, she said that she was correcting her tutor throughout the session. That means more than once. But then she said she decided to trust her because it looks like she did not have another choice. So there was some kind of negotiation there. Should I take what she said or not? Should I trust her or not? But then finally she decided that she's gonna trust her, which is good. I have not yet graded this paper, and I just use it as an example, and I'm gonna very soon start grading this final draft because the deadline, the due date is tonight at 11:59. Still, there are a couple more hours before the due date closes. Anyway, let's look at another example. Okay, so this one, time visited, February 4th, which is actually today. Okay. Now the topics covered. She said, during my time at the Writing Center, we reviewed most of my essay. My main concern was grammar and sentence structure. By the way, the institution that I work for, FIU, Florida International University, is a minority majority or okay. I'm back. I'm sorry, got disconnected. So let me share this. Okay, so this is example two. Topics covered. She said, during my time at the Writing Center. Okay, we already read this, so I'm going to jump to. Although Anna wanted to focus more so on the information discussed in the essay, such as why LGBTQ is a relevant social justice cause and what role does this movement take place in society, as well as giving me tips on not speaking in first person. So she commented on her grammar and also on the topic. And as I was saying, FIU is a majority minority institution. The majority of students are Hispanic and international. We have big international student population, so we do work with them on their like grammar structure and stuff like that. Let's read the negotiation. She said I agreed to read over most of the essay with her, and then she provided me input as far as the content of the essay. We decided to focus on re-paraphrasing some of my sentences so it would be more concise with the rest of the essay. Then she made some suggestions towards what to incorporate into the essay. For example, main point that I missed out on was why the relevancy of this movement is important. Now, again, she's given her some insights on the topic itself. Because of this, I've decided to add more examples throughout the essay of their significance. So we see that the negotiation that happened between the tutor and the student was really helpful and fruitful. Okay, now let's move on to another example with the extra column. Now, topics planned to cover and why. She said page structure and thesis. It was not finished, more could be moved or added. Okay, topics actually cover the thesis structure and punctuation. So she talked about what she planned to talk about. Negotiation, I agreed, and it went very well. It was a great experience. We see the table is very, very brief, and I decided to include this table to just show that sometimes we need to ask students to give us more details on their visits. Although this example should be from the focused one, but yet we feel that it's actually not focused. We're not given enough details about the visit, and we don't know exactly what happened. This is the final example here, example number four. Topics planned to cover and why the grading criteria for the assignment and general structure of the paper assignment. Topics actually covered bettering structure, syntax, and colloquialism. Negotiation, I would like more help in the text citation as I found myself oversighting in fear of plagiarism. It seems that also the students did not exactly understand what I meant but by negotiation. And I feel like I need to explain more to my students. And by the way, my course is asynchronous class. It's not synchronous. We do not have live sessions, and that might be a challenge, I know. And sometimes I do, like what I'm doing now, I video record myself talking to my students. And when I suggest a time to meet, many of them end up not meeting because they have work and stuff like that. Okay, anyway, conclusion. What I want to say in the conclusion is that what might work in a class at a time with student population, with specific student population, might not work with other students' populations. Again, I apologize about the noise in the background. I'm sorry. Um, I'm actually currently in Egypt, so that's why you're hearing some noise in the background. Although it's after midnight here in Egypt, but yet it's very noisy outside. I'm sorry. Okay, so everything is contextual and spatiotemporal. Everything is related to the time and place, to students' population. So if something works for you in one class, it's not granted that, or it should not be taken for granted that it will work for you in another class, because students are not the same. Situation may not be the same. The time may not be the same, and I'm learning from this experience as well. Okay, well, thank you so much. Thanks for your time, and I hope I have shared with you something beneficial.